So Keanu Reeves says deep fake digital face edits, artificial intelligence are a system of control and manipulation. He has got a clause in his contracts when he acts that says that they cannot make alterations to him with CGI.
He said this happened to him before, where in one scene he watched of himself, they edited a tear to fall down from his eye, and he's like, why am I even hired then? I'm supposed to be acting, I'm supposed to be emoting, and you're editing the emotions onto me without even asking. Yeah,
well, it's like, I'm picturing just like how many movies they've just added a single tear to somebody's
you
face.
never know.
You'll never know
if they have.
My favorite is CGI.
I'm going to need an itemized list of everything that they faked in a movie.
I wonder if he doesn't allow CGI breath. That's a thing too. Like a lot of times if they're not someplace cold enough, they have to add CGI breath, which...
That's like, different though. The tear is literally editing your acting skills. So the breath is like part of the set.
What if they're like CGI rain? Are they allowed to edit CGI rain hitting his skin? Or do they have to...
The environment, I think, is more excusable. But if you're editing his facial expressions, that's maybe going too far.
Ooh, I'd like to find out where that line gets drawn.
So here's what he says. He says, what's frustrating about deepfakes is you lose your agency, Reeves told Wired in a recent interview. When you give a performance in a film, you know you're going to be edited, but your participation in that, if you go into deepfake land, it has none of your points of view. That's scary. He's right. Like, there are scenes where they add, like they make somebody's face look different, where they widen a smile, or they can remove smiles, they can add blinking, they can make eyes closed. One of the most common ways they do this, when they have human beings who have to fake being dead, they CGI the eyes open.
Oh, really?
So that they don't see the blinking, or so you don't see the eyes fluttering.
Okay, yeah, they're blinking, or if they're breathing, you stop the
you stop the stomach from doing it. Like, but it's like a lot of times because if it's a death scene in the eye and they die with their eyes open, they have to sit there with their eyes open for a long period of time. They have to CGI the eyes from not moving or fluttering. That's a very, very common thing to do. That's obviously, I don't think that's what he's talking about here. He's like, I like the idea that he's like a hardcore. He's like, no, I can hold my eyes open for as long as I need to.
Yeah, he said what's frustrating about that is you lose your agency. When you give a performance in a film, you know you're going to be edited, but you're participating in that. If you go into deepfake land, it has none of your points of view. That's scary. It's going to be interesting to see how humans deal with these technologies. They're having such cultural, sociological impacts, and the species is being studied. There's so much data on behaviors now. And he talked about this conversation he had with a young Zoomer recently about the Matrix.
I bet you this scared the crap out of Keanu Reeves.
This is funny.
Like good guy Greg, Keanu Reeves was probably scared.
I mean, I would love to know who this 15-year-old is. Maybe it's just like his nephew or something. And he explained that his character Neo was fighting for what's real, fighting for reality. And this 15-year-old scoffed at him and said, "Who cares if it's real?"
That's scary.
And I have to say, like, that's a believable interaction. Honestly, I don't think he's exaggerating at all.
No,
that is something totally believable that a young person would say now, because so much of a 15-year-old's experience now, unless they're being shielded purposefully from the way things are by their parents, it is artificial and digital.
On screens.
And it's equally important to them.
They call it deep fake, but eventually I think they're going to start calling it deep reality, where it's all, anything you want to be real can seem real, but it's not bound by physics. Like, it's almost like I was tweeting this last night trying to visualize it, and I was like, I think we have, in our dreams, we have resistance to the physical, to the laws of physics. Not that they aren't there, but we are able to resist them. And in deep reality, you're also able to resist physics, the laws of physics. But in real life, you know, you don't have much resistance. You have some resistance to the laws of physics. We bend them slightly over time, and then we learn more and change them, and we're able to bypass. But I think it's, you know, that resistance is important. Like you need to be able to. Well, I mean, the resistance of physics is important to grow. If you don't have the resistance pushing back on you and giving you limitations, there's no reason to try and overcome them.
Yeah.
That's the danger of deep reality.
But also this, like, as an actor, you would understand that, like, look, actors get very specific about their performances. What an actor sees, it's kind of like what we talk about inside baseball. Like, what an actor likes about a performance is oftentimes very, very different from what the audience likes about a performance. So they could go through and make small changes to things that you loved about your performance, and then you'll have no say in the matter because you've signed yourself over contractually to this project. So oddly enough, it's the only people who are going to be able to be resistant to things like this are somebody of his stature who has the bargaining power in the industry to put this in a contract. I guarantee you there is not a single Marvel actor that can do that. Even the big name ones. Marvel gets the final say so. We talked about it the other day, and like they give up total creative control of themselves to these projects.
It does seem like a lot of these actors and actresses getting basically like poached and captured by Marvel are selling their souls. Mm-hmm. Like when I see Natalie Portman in a Marvel movie, I don't know how to feel about that.
Black Swan was so long ago.
Even Paul Rudd, like they're honestly like poaching actors with genuine talent and cheapening them.
The perpetuity stuff where they're like, we own your digital likeness forever in every dimension heretofore can be, we might be able to go back and say those contracts, all those Marvel actors, all those people that signed perpetuity clauses of their digital rights, that they're going to be deepfaked by Marvel to be saying that they love cows or whatever. we might be able to retroactively release those contracts, people from those contracts, and say they didn't understand what they were signing at the time because the technology changed. The words actually mean different things now.
Well, they've been trying to do that with the Second Amendment for like...
Dude, I'm so glad Keanu Reeves spoke up. This is the first time I've seen a really famous actor talk about this. I've been talking about this with Tim for a long time. We decided, Tim and I, that we're not going to create perpetuity clauses for digital rights because we're an entertainment industry. You don't put people in a digital servitude slavery. And I think Keanu working on Cyberpunk, the video game, he was face to face with digital translations of his face. So he knows what they can do to make it look like he's saying and doing things that he's not saying and doing. Yep. I love this guy. I love him. I've met him once. I served him food at a restaurant I used to work at in LA. Nice. He's great, man, dude.
Is he the nice guy that
he's super
everyone
cool.
says he is?
See?
Super chill.
My faith is restored.
Look, I mean, I don't... The thing about Keanu Reeves is like, everything I don't like about him is imposed by other people, not him. So I don't dislike him at all. It's the whole, like, he's just a good human and a small bean. That's what I dislike.
I think of it more as like it's my ability to trust my own judgment. Like I can look at 30 actors where you hear the good guy Greg stories about what a nice person they are, and I would hope that you could pick out which ones feel like it's being served to you by a production.
I don't care if they're good people.
But by a production house?
I just care what they do publicly.
Yeah, I don't know him. I should say clearly, I met him once. I really don't know anything about his personality, but I really liked his energy when I met him, and I really love what I see from him in the media.
So it seems like he's equally impassioned about deepfakes and AI and NFTs. Like you, actually.
I love the idea of him just deep diving on the web at like 2 a.m. Like that's what he's doing. He's just hitting
Well, he goes off here. He said a lot about it. In regard to digital art being made by AI, he said, it's cool, like, look what the cute machines can make, but there's a corporatocracy behind it that's looking to control those things. Culturally, socially, we're going to have to be confronted by the value of real or the non-value. And then what's going to be pushed on us? What's going to be presented to us? It's this sensorium, it's spectacle, and it's a system of control and manipulation. We're on our knees looking at cave walls and seeing the projections, and we're not having the chance to look behind us.
Well, some of us are looking behind. Keanu, we got you.
I feel like he was probably like the happiest he's been in like 6 months having this conversation.
Like, it's fun. I got asked the question that I wanted to be asked.
He's like, I don't care about John Wick right now. I want to talk about deepfakes and I want to talk about AI.
Dude, that's wild that he did The Matrix and then he became like red-pilled. Like he truly, like, art imitates life or life imitates art. I'd find that. I was doing a character on Cast Castle where I was kind of channeling Steven Crowder the last couple days. And in the middle of the shoot, I just like lost it and I slammed the table and I was like, really angry. And there is a chance that you can become like the character you're attempting to portray. So I love that he's like truly red-pilled.
Maybe that's why all the lazy actors today just want all the characters to be like who they are in real life so they don't have to change.
Yeah, it hurts, man, to act like a thing you don't agree with. It is a sort of like spiritual pain.
like to what were we talking about recently where I brought up the we were just talking about like how often do these times like we were talking about so like the people who didn't want to go home or somebody left their husband or something because they portrayed a character or something.
What?
I'll have to think about it. Like
Penn Badgley?
Was it Penn or no? Yeah, I mean we kind of included it in that conversation, but like the idea that like we were talking about people who are simulating sex on camera and then having to go home and be married, and you were making the argument that like it's still you understood where they're coming from, why that would make them uncomfortable, right? And I was like, well, like, what if we took that beyond the idea of just intimacy? I was like, what if like a super far left person had to play like a right wing person on like a TV show?
Well, now that is already frowned upon because we talked about that screenwriter who wrote a racist character and was then, shamed out of the room because you have to be racist in order to even imagine a fictional racist person.
But I mean, that's kind of goes to what we were talking about the other day. Is like they write characters. It's maybe they don't write characters as like these weird stereotypes because they're bad writers, but because they're scared that the other writers are going to yell at them if they write it with too much nuance. Like if they write the character with too much nuance, they'll be like, "Ooh, that seems like you know a little bit too much about that. You shouldn't write." It
sounded like the guy had written a very one-dimensional racist character, and they didn't care. It was just the fact that it addressed that issue at all that was the problem.
Did you guys ever see Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks movie from like
haven't.
Early 80s, I think.
I saw Whoopi Goldberg crusading for it, actually.
Oh, for Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, she was like...
it would be canceled today.
Well, possibly. It was like... You would say there's a lot of racism. The idea the movie is about a black dude who it's like 1860 and he goes through this like town in the old West and like the Wild West and becomes the new mayor, but it's a bunch of racist white people. But the racist white people are written to be idiots in the movie. Like they are so stupidly racist, and you see the stupidity of racism that comes out in it. So as long as you don't write the racism to be heroic, I think that you can certainly write racist characters into movies.
Here's the problem, though. They write those characters. That was written at a time where that would have been the norm. Now they're still writing the characters like that about people living in 2023, and that's not the world we live in anymore. So it's weird to see a character written who's supposed to be existing in the year 2023 in Los Angeles, written as if he's in the Deep South in the 1800s.
I'm going to bring up The Walking Dead again because of Merle and Daryl. How they introduce Merle as this raging racist, and he is pretty like one-dimensionally a bad person. Daryl is a little more nuanced, but they both express, at the very least, racially insensitive views. Merle legit just like says the N-word and like is a racist. But like you still explore those characters as actual individuals, and you come to love Daryl. Daryl's like I think maybe the most popular character in the series, and like his relationship with his brother is explored further as well, and it was because it was made in a more sane time. But like even then, I don't know if there is a guy like Merle in 2010 living in Georgia near Atlanta.
I'll give you another example. There was a show called Justified, which took place in Kentucky. And if they had made this show even 5 years later, and they're making a TV movie version, like continuation, it's based on an Elmore Leonard book series about Raylan Givens, and it takes place in Kentucky, and there are calls to racism, aspects of it that are somewhat shown, but all the characters are so deeply complex and three-dimensional. Like even the buffoonish bad guys are seen as like actual people. Like they're buffoonish and bad, but they're also the product of living in an environment that's had it out for them from the start, right? They're in this area where there's no public funding. The world seems to have forgotten about them. There's a lot of desperation there, and most of the characters. There's a deputy in the show played by Erica Tizell, who she calls back to the idea of racism from time to time, but it never becomes all she talks about. If anything, she's underused in the show, and they don't make sure, like, she's not just the character you go to when you need to talk about these issues, right? If anything, they go to her in spite of that. And I just don't think you would be able to do that even 5 years later. Like, it would have never been made in the same way. And I'm terrified to see where the where the continuation is going to go.
To reel it back to the discussion about deepfakes and like digital altering of media, I wanted to read this quote from the director of John Wick 4. He said, "We're not anti-VFX. Our problem comes when you use it in place of being creative."
Yep.
And I think he's subtly throwing shade at basically Marvel, but a lot of movies right now.
Not entirely. I mean, kind of. But the John Wick franchise made its bones by being about practical effects.
Yeah.
For the most part, like the very first one, like the type of cinematography and gun shootouts that they used in those movies, which became their signature and ushered in a new era in Hollywood that got rid of the shaky cam and the jump cut, was literally because the first movie was made on such a small budget that they couldn't afford second cameras to do mid-level shots or close-ups.
You're
so they
showing
had
the
to
whole
shoot,
room.
Yeah, so like when you see him take a headshot from like usually ridiculously far distances, that's my favorite part. Like, oh no.
Is the crisis
Did you hear
sound
it?
not on?
Oh, snap.
We always
fault.
miss something.
My fault.
Gentlemen.
My fault.
But thank you guys.
Can you hear
you.
the noise?
That like they did a lot of practical effects and a lot of use of squibs rather than digital blood. I mean, there's still a lot of, if you go and
Love
look at
that
the
word, by the way, squibs.
Yeah.
if you go and you look at the making of the movies farther on, they do a lot of CGI in the John Wick movies, usually involving the cars and the horses. Like anytime you see the horse kick the dude, those are my favorite scenes in those movies. It's the car violence, not just the gun violence. By the way, John Wick is a superhero. He gets hit by a car head on a statistically improbable amount of times in those movies. Like even the end of the trailer for the fourth one is him getting hit by a car again. So, but they made their bones on practical effects. And like we always talk about with Marvel, you are more likely to stay engaged if it's practical effects.
For sure. I was thinking that last night, man. That's why C-3PO is such an endearing character in Star Wars, and I think why the series has gone downhill since Return of the Jedi, and why they kept C-3PO as a dude in a metal costume, because you see the humanity in the character. Like, even though it's awkward and it's obvious that he's wearing a piece of plastic metal, it's still, you see the consciousness, and it's so much better than a freaking cartoon, man.
Even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies, the original one, the first three were all done with Jim Henson's Creature Shop, which were actual, those are actual entities that you're on screen with. It's not CGI characters. I tried to watch the Michael Bay ones, and as much of a stan for Michael Bay as I may be, and as hot as Megan Fox is, it's just didn't work.
Didn't do it for you.
Didn't do it for me.
Guardians of the Galaxy is another one. It's just obviously heavily CGI, if not all CGI, and yet I'm supposed to feel strongly about the characters I'm watching, and I don't register them as persons.
Yep.
Because it's just, the brain is always going to know the difference between real and fake, no matter how good deepfakes get or how good AI gets. The brain is still more powerful.
Yep.
And those little calculations it makes can never be like fully duped.
Even Avatar 2, like it's the hand motions that are the fakest to me. It's like when they're trying to simulate, it's not them.
Well, they also have like 3 fingers, right?
Like, but it's the way the arms move.
Yeah.
Like it's just not.
Well, they're very spindly as well.
Yeah.
I feel like Avatar, not avatars, but the Na'vi would be terrifying in real life.
Oh yeah.
Like they look like insects almost.
Yeah.
They're so skinny and spindly and tall.
You're right about the brain being able to discern the difference, because like realistically we have trillions of bacteria growing and living on our skin that the camera is picking up. It's just so small that the eyes don't necessarily perceive it, but our brains are perceiving it because it's there.
Yeah.
So in CG they don't have that.
Yeah.
It's just there's something.
It's the same way that your eye can't mimic, like a camera can't mimic light the same way your eye can, like with the iris on the camera doesn't do it the same way. So,
and like you can't comprehend the stillness of a dead person.
yeah.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.